is easily 2 books. And that's what we're ranking today, folks. This is easily the longest ranking video yet, with 42 items to talk about. There is a lot of content to go through, and it's pretty dang hard because I consider most of the books on this list to be pretty dang great. How on earth is it possible to rank all 42, you ask? By abiding by a set of rules, of course. So before we get started, allow me to explain them. I set 3 rules, and the book's placement on this list is decided by how well it hits each of them. Number 1 is structure. Is there an overarching plot to the book? Is there an overall arc that connects all 4 stories, or some sort of theme that they all relate to? Or is it just 4 random stories that don't really relate to anything? Number 2 is world building. This refers to anything new the book introduces to the series. New locations, flashbacks, histories, or new characters. Do these new characters add anything to the universe? Do any of the previously established characters show any significant growth? And lastly, memorability. How memorable are the stories in the book? The book could have no overarching theme, but if all the stories are bangers, then that will help its ranking. I also won't lie to you all. Personal bias will also play a factor here. Some I just like more than others for personal reasons, which I'll explain as we go. It's my list, I can rank them as I like. I should also mention that none of the one-off books, like Thomas's Christmas Party or Thomas and the Evil Diesel, will be included here. We are focusing only on the 42 main books of the series. Perhaps we'll cover those one-offs and all those annual stories the Audreys wrote another time. And lastly, this should go without saying, but everything said here is just my opinion. Nothing is fact, none of this means anything in the grand scheme of things. If you love a book that I don't particularly rank highly, then there's nothing wrong with that. This is all just for fun. Okay, we have a lot to go through today, so let's keep this as snappy as possible. Let's get started. Number 42. New Little Engine. Yeah, this is the worst book. I think Christopher's books in general were all pretty hit or miss, but his later ones are just so forgettable. That's the word I would use to describe this book. Forgettable. And that's the worst thing a book in this series can be. I legit had to look up what happened in this for this video because I totally forgot what the stories were. A story with Rheneas losing traction, Peter Sam in some dirty water and whales, Sir Handel sulks in a shed, and then something regarding Skarloey and a pig, which somehow ties into Ivanhoe getting introduced. For a book called New Little Engine, the New Little Engine does not appear until the last 2 pages of the book, and he has no lines. Why did they build him? Why is he there? What is his personality? No one knows. Another book, Jock the New Engine, does a very similar concept, and is much more engaging, I think. None of the stories are connected really, and I don't think any of them are memorable. While it does world build technically with the introduction of Ivanhoe, he barely does anything that it doesn't really matter. The definitive NPC of the series. Fred is also technically introduced in this book. You never see him in an illustration, and they don't explain how or why he's there, but he exists too, I guess. This book doesn't feel inspired at all, and feels like it was written more out of obligation than anything to tie in with Taliclin's new build engine, Tom Rolt. Worst of the series.
Excel no es el...
Number 41. Thomas and the Fat Controller's Engines. Another forgettable book, with no real overarching plot. This book was written to celebrate the Golden Jubilee of the very first Railway Series book in 1945. The Railway Series does exist within the universe because it's meta like that, and a celebration for it is to be held at the big station. Prince Charles comes and gives a speech, etc. Sounds like a big event, and you'd think this is something that'd span the whole book, but it doesn't. It's only in the final story. There's an attempt at structure having the event mentioned in the first story, but it's completely unrelated to what the plot of that story is. The first 3 stories have nothing to do with each other. Gordon nearly kills a bird, Edward loses a wheel, and Thomas derails because of rabbits digging holes under the track. What do any of these have to do with the Golden Jubilee celebration? For a book called Thomas and the Fat Controller's Engines, the book has shockingly little Thomas in it, and most of the engines don't do anything. Again, none of these stories are all that memorable. Although I will say the visual of Gordon striking a crow is pretty dang funny. This is a pretty good illustration. It had the potential to be so much more, but like the rest of Chris's later books, this felt like it was written out of obligation more than inspiration. Number 40. Great Little Engines. Man, Chris really did not know how to write for the Skarloey engines, did he? He only wrote 2 books on them, and this one, like the other one, also feels like it was written out of obligation more so than any sort of actual inspiration. From what I understand, this book was written in accordance with Prince Charles and Diana visiting the Tallyclin Railway in real life, and dressing up one of their engines as Sir Handel for their Thomas days. The book plays this off as if the real Sir Handel actually went to Wales and met the Prince and Princess, and follows his adventures there. That, in theory, sounds like a really fun idea for a book, and the last story that does that is the funnest story in it. In real life, the real quote-unquote Sir Handel hit a tree near the line and the face on it got damaged, so the crew bandaged it up. And the book plays this off like Sir Handel actually got a black eye. This is really funny and meta, and I'd love it if the book was more of this. But it's not. The other 3 stories have no relation to it. Again, I had to look up the stories online to remember what even happened here. Sir Handel leaves the guard behind, a story we've done a million times in the series already. Peter Sam gets stuck in some branches, and my all-time favorite story ever, Pop's Special. The plot of which some Boy Scouts are thirsty, so Duncan brings them soda. That's it. That's the whole story. No conflict. Why is this Duncan? He's not even written as Duncan, he's just some NPC nice guy character. The last story where Sir Handel has to get an eye patch is the most notable thing about this book, but other than that, it's all a total dud. Pretty forgettable. Number 39. James and the Diesel Engines. Now I have gone on record of saying that I think this is Chris's weakest book. And yes, I do think this is a notably weak one. But after revisiting all of them, I don't think it is his worst. The idea of this book is awesome, following up on James's prejudice with diesels, something that was subtly set up by Wilbert in his books. James badmouths Diesel. He encourages Duncan to keep putting down Rusty. He's a jerk to Boko. And in the time those stories were written, James's motives made some sense. Diesels were new at the time, and they did pose a threat to steam engines. This book was written in the 80s, much later, during a time when diesels were a norm on railways, and most of the lasting steam engines had grown to accept them. All except James. This is a good concept. Problem is the book is structured horribly. The first story is about a visiting diesel that crashes into the shed. Okay, this is fine. A nice intro to the callousness of some diesels, and gives a starting point for James to complain about them again. Second story, James says diesels are weird, and then he hits a signal. Alright. Third story, absolutely nothing to do with diesels. It's a Henry story, completely unrelated to everything. Why is this here? Last story is the big finale where diesels win James over, and it's in the most anticlimactic way possible. James breaks down and some random diesel we never learn the name of nor see the face of rescues him. What the hell is this? Who is this? Why isn't this Bear, or a diesel we're familiar with, or a diesel that the book set up earlier? Why is it just some NPC? Really? This is the one to change James's mind? Such a colossal missed opportunity to build the characters of the diesels we already know. The theme of this book is pretty inspired and relevant to the time it was written, and the first story with Old Stuck-Up is pretty memorable, I think, but it's a book that is very unfocused. The word I would use to describe this book is half-baked. I feel like so much more could have happened here that was wasted. Number 38. Thomas and His Friends. I have mixed feelings on this book. This is the final installment of the series, and as a finale, it's terrible. It's lacking in any sort of grandeur or spectacle. I think we all expected a really nice send-off to the series, and credit where credit is due, the last page where they unveil a bust of Wilbert Awdry in the big station is very heartwarming. But the rest of the book is so unrelated to any of that. This is the book where Gordon is famously retired from pulling the express. I love this so much, and I think it's so fitting that it happens in the final book of the series. I love how it's handled. The Fat Controller tells Gordon Pip and Emma have joined the railway,